For a long time, the image of the Globetrotter has been of a white person traveling, enjoying tourism, but that's changing because of a black travel movement. I want to introduce you to a woman called Evita Robinson. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And you are the founder of the No Madness Tribe, which is part of that black travel movement. If you could talk to me more broadly, right now there's a news cycle that is focused on the movement of black bodies around the world, and there's some opposition, in particular in the United States. But you actually take black people around the world as tourists to travel. So how big is that movement right now?
The movement is huge. And I mean, when we started it back in 2011, we were the first really for millennial travelers. So our specific demographic is black millennial travelers. And coming from a background of backpacking myself, I was gallivanting around the world, living abroad, and wanted to find like-minded people that looked like me, came from the same type of background that I felt like I could, relate to. And so with No Madness, we started with 100 people, and in our community alone, in the last 6 years, we've grown to over 17,000 around the world.
17,000.
17,000. And that's just one group. And now what's happened is now what's known on social media as the Black Travel Movement, there's so many other groups that are a part of this collective, and we're changing the perception of what a traveler looks like, particularly within the black demographic, just like one group at a time, one trip at a time.
Are there any special challenges when you travel as a black person around the world?
I mean, safety is something that we think about, I think, on another scale. Everybody wants to be safe when you're abroad, but you don't know how you're going to be received. It's also been quite difficult for us in the transition of the presidential.
Can imagine, I can imagine.
It's like we were so much more well accepted, and we're having, lighter conversations when Obama was in presidency, but ever since Trump has taken office, it's been a heavier conversation. People from abroad have been checking in on us to see if we're okay, which has been a new side of the story. And so we have to take all of these things into account, and you don't know how you're being perceived in certain places. So it's important that our representation is there internationally.
To get a better understanding of where you're going, what countries is your tribe going to?
Everywhere. Right now, there is just this real interest that we're digging deep into the continent of Africa. That's something, and people are starting off small in places that they may feel more comfortable with. So we're talking South Africa's and the Ghanas. A lot more people are going into like Tanzania and Zanzibar and places like that now. But the interest is there to really kind of like go back home and see what life is like now, and understand that there's a millennial movement that's happening just like what we have in the States within our demographic abroad. But we've gone everywhere from Panama to Thailand to Samoa, on an off the beaten path trip, to, Barcelona. We've run with the Bulls in Pamplona, Spain. And it's just been amazing to see us navigate the travel space and to represent our stories.
You recently gave a TED Talk, which is pretty extraordinary. And in it, there's a phrase that really stood with me. You said that when you get on a plane and you think that, you're arriving there for the first time, but in particular, the likes of you, if you're a black person, has been there already, and you arrive as a sort of a mystery. Explain that. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite lines, actually, from the TED Talk as well. But really what I meant by that was, mass media and news, ushers out these depictions of black Americans to the rest of the world. And so when you lay foot in these different places, you're already kind of like battling what that looks like. You don't know what type of images have been digested. When I moved to Japan and was teaching English and bartending there, I knew for a fact that I was the first black person that my students in elementary school had ever come in contact with.
And Evita, very briefly, what is the significance? How important is it to have black tourists travel the world?
Yeah, we have to really not just find out what other cultures are like, but also expose ourselves, and kind of like, again, dial back any of those preconceived notions or stereotypes that have hit before we landed, and be able to really represent ourselves for ourselves.
Thank you very much, Evita.
Thank you.